Today's webinar is all about the management tools within iorad. While it might not sound glamorous, it is a necessary thing, and I hope that today's session is helpful for you. Today, feel free to place your questions in the chat. We'll send out today's recording with those answers, as well as this presentation with hyperlinks to tutorials that will kind of cover the majority of what I'm going to be showing today as well. So today's topics, like I mentioned, we're going to kind of cover tutorial organization, help center management briefly, and team permissions as well. So first up, we're going to cover is the dashboard functions. You'll see here it's quite the list, but I think there's some things in here that are often missed. So I'm just going to kind of go over these and how you can use them. So jumping into iorad, we will start with the sort and filter option. So the sort option is located right here where it says all with the drop down. And this allows you to filter by, say, quiz mode. If you've enabled quiz mode on your tutorials, then you can enable or sort by quiz mode. You can sort by the tutorials that have audio, or maybe you've disabled a few tutorials. This is an easy way to filter out those tutorials as well. So just to name a few there. And then the sort option is right here under this. Typically we default to date, but you can also sort by privacy. This is great if you want to be able to scroll through and just see what all your tutorials are set to quickly without going into the settings for each one. You can also sort by views. This is another really awesome hidden gem, because oftentimes you'll have to go into the analytics and see each one by one, which it does give a lot of information, but maybe you just want to be able to see high level the total number of views that each of these tutorials has had, and then you can sort by greater or least tutorial number. So I'm just going to reset this back to date here. And then again, you can use those up and down arrows. The next one we'll talk about are our categories and subcategories. Now, this is huge for not only internal organization, but also when you're sharing these tutorials externally. So if you're using our Help Center feature, whether that's the web extension or the web Help Center, the extension, or the widget, the categories and subcategories are going to be super helpful. So when you're building this out, it is helpful to know that there are the subcategory options. So if you hover over the plus, or hover over the category and click the plus, that's how you can add a subcategory. Now, something that's very important to note is that when you add, either with a plus here or as a subcategory, when you add a category, you will see it here temporarily displayed. It'll blink, but because you haven't added any tutorials to it, it's going to disappear. So if you notice, I'll scroll to the bottom of this list. You'll see there's no categories with 0 next to it. That's because we're only showing the ones that have tutorials in that category already. If you click on the pencil, that's where, if you scroll to the bottom, now you're going to see those categories that maybe you just created, but you haven't assigned to a tutorial yet. So just something to keep an eye out for there. The other thing would be, how do you use categories and tags? Oftentimes, this is one of the hardest things when you're getting started with creating any sort of content, whether it be an iorad or not an iorad. You have to think through, how do you want to organize your content? So I find that you can kind of plan all you want, and it's good to plan, but until you start creating the content, trying things out, putting tutorials into, we'll call it a folder or a category, you're probably not going to know exactly how it's going to pan out, beautifully in the end. But one of the nice things about iorad is, let's click on the mail option, for instance. Say I realize, oh my goodness, I just want to change this mail. I want to take some of these tutorials in here and move them to a different category because I need to break this down even further. Down here at the bottom, you can then change the category for a bulk number, whether that's 3 or in a whole entire subcategory. And it's super easy to adjust. So I always recommend, just get started, build some content, try, get your outline going as best as you can. And then if it doesn't work, it's fine. Like, just change it later on, because otherwise you'll get stuck in this loop of trying to figure things out and making them perfect the first time. Now, my other tip of advice for categories and subcategories would be how to use them. And now, a lot of our customers use iorad very differently. Some of our customers use it for product training. They have their own product, and so it's going to be their end users. Some of them use it for internal employee training. And so if you're using it for employee training, it's only internal. You may have different kinds of roles or users that you're going to be sharing this content with. Maybe it's like departments, the accounting department, the engineering department, things of that nature. Or maybe it's customer training, but you don't have your own product. There's a wide range of ways you could be using iorad, or sharing it with teachers at the school or parents or students if you're in education. So my tip of advice would be for the category to be the application. The application could be like in this case, Google is the parent, level application, and then you have your sub applications underneath that. And so you can break it up that way. Or, maybe you don't have a subset of applications, then it can just stay at that one level, and you could do tabs underneath the application, like different sections of the application. So that would be kind of one way to think about using categories. Now, moving on to tags. Tags are a little bit different than categories. Categories, you can only add one category per tutorial. So you'll see here, this one has a category and a subcategory in that case, but it only can have one. Whereas tags can have multiple. So you might label this tutorial as a Google Mail tutorial, but it could be used for multiple reasons. Maybe it's helpful for the user and helpful for the admin, or helpful for customer 1, 2, and 3, but not customer 4. So that's where tags can be really beneficial. You can create tags in here, and then just click on this, and it'll say add if you have none, or edit, and then you can add it here and it will add to the list. Okay, so that's how tags can be used. Like I said, is more role-based, whether that's like the type of user or the type of customer or a specific customer. That's kind of where the tags come in.
One of the things that I noticed you do that didn't come out verbally, when you hovered over the word Google, there was a plus sign, and somebody's asking a question about this. How do you make those subcategories? And I think it's when you hovered there, that plus sign did that, right?
Yes, thank you. I did leave that out. So if you hover over a category, you can click plus. That's how you can create the subcategory. Any other questions so far? Okay. Alrighty, so moving on from tags now, we have our draft feature or function. Draft is used not in the beginning when you're building a tutorial, but more so after you created a tutorial, you shared it, whether that be you embedded it in an LMS or a content management system, or you share the link, you share it in a help center. There's many ways. But once it's kind of like out there, people are viewing it, and it's live, then you might want to make edits to it. The good thing about iorad is it does make your edits instantly available to everyone. The bad thing is if you're working on, maybe a longer edit, you don't want people to see the tutorial mid edit. So the nice thing with draft is you can make a draft, which is going to make a copy of the tutorial. You'll just click on the tutorial, click draft, and then it's going to create a copy of this tutorial so that you can work on it on the back end while the other one stays live for people to see, and you aren't disrupting their flow. Now, once you click on draft, it's going to open that folder. That's where that tutorial went that is in draft. You can edit it, you can delete it if you need to, or you can publish it when you're ready. Now, what's going to happen is your tutorial that's been, published to your LMS and is living and working great. Once you click publish, this tutorial version that was copied that you've been working on is going to then swap out with the existing one that was previously embedded. Any links that you've shared with others, anywhere you've embedded it, it will automatically swap with this one. And so there's no need to reshare links. There's no need to remember where you embedded the tutorial. It automatically will swap everything out for you. So iorad does the work, and that's kind of how you would use the draft feature. Next up would be the archive option. Now you would use archived if you, so I'll go back to this list view. So you have some tutorials that were older and you don't remember where you've shared them or embedded them. And you just kind of want to move away from them, but you don't want them showing in this My Tutorials list. That's when you can archive the tutorial, and it's just going to remove it from this list and place it over here in this archived folder, but it's still going to remain live. So that way, if you did embed it somewhere, it's not going to be a dead link. It's not going to be a white box or anything that your end users are going to see, and it's not going to look broken. It's going to stay as is, but it'll just be moved out of view. And then the last one is the trash option. So when you delete a tutorial, yes?
I'm going to go back to draft just for a second. We have a question that can get answered
Sure.
at the moment.
Okay.
The question is, do you have the option for the copy draft to change its name so the changes won't affect the original version?
Copy draft to change its name. The title?
Yes. Like, to make, does draft make a copy of it, or is that still the original?
Yes, this is a complete separate copy. So you can do anything to this copy and it will not disrupt the current live tutorial. Did that answer that question?
We'll find out from the person if that does, yes.
Okay. Okay. So
we were told yes. Thank you,
okay,
Susan.
Excellent. So moving on to draft, if you go back to your dashboard and say, we're going to delete this tutorial. Now, I'm not going to delete it right now, but if I use this delete button, this is a soft delete. So when you delete it, if you accidentally delete it, or you're doing like a bulk, where you select things and you're like, oops, I didn't mean to delete that one. This is a soft delete, and it will be moved to the trash folder. It'll remain here for 45 days, and at that point, then it would be emptied. Now, you can also delete it forever right now, or you could restore it if it were a mistake. Okay. Any other questions with that section? All right. So moving on, and I'll just note this real quick. All these underlined words are hyperlinked out to a tutorial that coordinates with that. So if you want to check that out and learn more later, you can.
I'm just going to add on as part of the help with the tag one. A few people are confused about what that does. In your dashboard with the tags, the only thing it does in your dashboard is allows you to pull up the ones that are tagged that way, so you can see which ones you've tagged that way. They're not useful anything except internally for you through your dashboard, until you'll see Lauren's going to get into the help center in a moment. That's where they really come into play.
Yep. So tags here is more internal, and then we'll talk about the help center later. Yep. All right, so let's jump into now tutorial information. Now, most of this can be found in the settings area. However, the last one here, I'll show you in the account area. So if I open up this tutorial and I go into the settings, that's where you can, adjust the title, as you all mostly know. The info, this is more of a place where you can put a subtitle or a description. So you can kind of choose how you want to use that. And this is going to show in a couple of places. So the step list view, it will show right here under the title. It will, if you have the step list view enabled in your help center, it will also show in that view. And it will show as a subtitle type of summary underneath the title on the left side of the help center as well. So if it's like, the title is how to label an email and you want to kind of give a little bit more information as to why someone would take that tutorial, that's kind of how you would use that. So that is the info. This meta tab here is going to pull in synonyms based off of the title that you've typed in. iorad automatically creates a list of synonyms with those based off those words. Feel free to adjust and remove, change any of those. But we all know that we think differently. And so your learners might not type in the exact title that you have. And so adding additional words here can be helpful for your learners when they're using the Web Help Center. So again, these search words are for the Web Help Center, not for the widget or the extension. But if you are using the Web Help Center, you can adjust those there. Notes, this is internal. So anything that you don't want to be publicly visible to your end learners, anything that you want to share, maybe like with the marketing team about this tutorial, something like that. These notes will be visible right here on this screen, as well as the export of the tutorial data. So I'll show you where that is. If you go up into the profile icon, click account, and then the data tab, export tutorial data. This is going to export a CSV file with all the names or titles of your tutorial, the links, the step list text that's in the tutorial, the meta words, the description, the notes, all the information about it is going to be in this export tutorial file. And you can also see here, there's some other file exports that you might want to check out as well. Okay. Moving on to Help Center types. Now, last webinar, we kind of went over the Web Help Center. This one, I'm going to specifically talk about organizing and sharing your tutorials in the Web Help Center and how to organize them that way, but also touch on the widget and the extension also. So the Web Help Center, let me jump back here. Now, if I go into the Help Center tab, you'll see our three options: web, widget, and extension. Once I open up, I'm just going to pick the new hire training help center here. And I can choose from the websites which sites I want to include training on. So I've selected a few here. And based off of those websites I've selected, it has populated this available column with the learner view category. So these are all categories. And then from that, I can choose which categories I want to include in this help center. So if I want to include Google training, I'll just click Google. I can expand it out. I can see all the tutorials under each subcategory. And I can deselect any tutorial that I don't want to include. So that's kind of where the importance of organizing these tutorials in categories, tags, subcategories is really important and helpful for you in the end. Now, if I want to maybe only share tutorials with certain roles, maybe I can switch to a tag view here. And now I can view the same tutorials, but in a different way. So I was looking at it at a category view, but now I'm looking at it from a tag view. So I can say, oh, I'm going to remove the archive tutorials. I don't want any tutorials with no tag. And now I have admin and user. I can expand these out, and now I can see which tutorials are included as admin and user tutorials that are Google. So there's kind of two layers, the application in my case, since I chose that route, and then the user level. If I wanted to say, I'm just going to have this help center just be user tutorials, then I can remove the admin tag, or maybe I want them both. But once I do that, let's preview it. And now you have this help center with the tag view, and you can expand these out and see, these are the user Google tutorials. These are the admin Google tutorials. But I can also switch this back to category, and then I'll refresh. And now I have the category view. So now your end learners can just see one list with your subcategories by application. And you know who you're sharing it with, so you don't need to go to that user admin potentially level, but it helps you to pull in the right training. Arlen, any questions on that or anything that I missed?
Nope, and I'm going to put into the chat room, the chat, that the link from the July's Help Center webinar, if somebody wants some more in-depth information.
Excellent.
Okay, there is a question about adding people to your iorad account in the share list. And I guess it's a question mostly on whether or not they have a team account or not.
With the Help Center?
It doesn't say. It says, can I add another person to my iorad account to share the list? So okay. I guess it's a question, how do you share a Help Center?
We will follow up with that afterwards. I think that could go a couple of ways, but we'll send the multitude of answers or reach out directly afterwards.
Okay.
And then the other two options we have are widget and extension. So like I said, the web help center, you can use both categories and tags to share your tutorials, but widget and extension, you can only use the categories and subcategories function. So what I mean by that is when I open this widget here, you're going to see these tutorials, but these are categories. So I have no way to use that tagging function to display tutorials with tags or by specific roles in the widget. It's categories and subcategories. So if I expand it, you'll see these are the subcategories and then the tutorials underneath it. And this is, like I said, the widget is for tutorials that are on your own product. So if you have your product and you have access to the code of your website, that's when you can add the widget and share your own tutorials on your product. Now, if you want to share tutorials across other applications that you do not own, that is the extension, and it works very similarly. It'll look similar as far as the tutorials go. And so I'm going to switch to slides and open the extension. And now you're going to see here, this is the category view again. So here you can see the blocks, and I can expand it out, and you can take the tutorial right here. And this is on the learner tab. So again, there's many ways to share these tutorials. That's a whole nother webinar in and of itself of how do you share these and the permissions around that. If you do have questions, we're here to help get you into the right direction. But as assuming they have the permission to view these tutorials, it would show up in the extension, and they can open up the tutorial and take it right here on the application that they would like. As a bonus information here, something that we just released is the ability for this extension or the widget to actually be movable. So if you're working on this side, you're working on something over here, and now the next step is to import theme, we'll say down here, and it's covered. I can click on the X and move it so that I can then navigate on this side of the screen while still taking the steps on this side of the screen. So just a little fun tidbit extra for you.
Back in the default categories in the Help Center, the question was if there are tutorials with a particular tag, say Monday. Will you show again where you can remove those from the learner side?
On the Web Help Center here, and how you can remove a tag, or from a dashboard?
A category, like if you have you've defaulted that category in there, how do you remove a category or a tutorial from the learner side?
Oh, okay. So if it's in category view or tag view, you can either click the X or you can expand it and then remove or deselect each tutorial individually. That way, or if I switch it to tag view, same thing. You have an X.
Okay. There's a clarification on the question, and in the interest of time, I'll say the question, and then we will get back to everyone with the answer. It's on the learner side in the extension. How do you keep things from showing in the extension? And again, that's a different thing. We've asked the question, and we will include that in the response to everybody.
This will kind of go with what I was going to say next anyway. Okay. So with the extension, I'm showing you this. How does it show here? So like I said, the permissions is the whole thing, but these tutorials show on slides in this case, because that's where they were captured. So if I go into my tutorial, we'll just pick the first one, and I go into my settings, and then I go into advanced modes. You'll see this tutorial is available on mail.google.com because that's where I captured it. So that's where it's going to show. So any tutorial captured on slides is showing in slides. Anything is showing on or captured on Google, Mail Google, then it's going to show on my Gmail. So that's kind of an answer to that question, a shorter answer. There's a lot more to that, but okay. So the last couple of things, I know I'm kind of short on time here, but team management, under the team tab, you have the ability to add and invite and remove creators. We have our different team roles. Create only works great for SMEs. So if you want to invite someone in, allow them to create some tutorials and then deactivate the user, their tutorials will then transfer to the account owners, or the owner's account, so that it can be, those tutorials can be edited, where you've now freed up that seat and someone else or another SME can be invited in. Create in team view is a popular one because it allows them to create but not edit other team tutorials. And so you're not duplicating content because no one, this person doesn't talk to this person and they duplicate the same tutorial. So that one's a really nice option there. And then create and team edit, you can edit all team tutorials. Admin, you can have multiple admins, and that allows them to edit and adjust the Help Center options, as well as invite others to the team. I will also say with the create only and the create in team view, a nice thing here is that while it is a team level permission, you can always go to your dashboard as a user and under the share menu individually invite someone to edit one particular tutorial, even if they're a create only user. So by using the share invite option, you can invite or assign a different permission that way. So it's not all or nothing. And then the last one would be admin settings lock. And so under the account settings area, account, the admin tab, we have some options here where you can disable the public option so your team members cannot even select public, or you can set up a template by going into the tutorial for any of these options here, setting it, and then coming back and turning it on. And that will ensure that everyone has the consistent privacy layout theme whichever setting you've chosen to lock. And that concludes today's webinar. I've pulled together
Right on
some
time.
articles of interest. So if you feel like learning more, or there's certain things you want to read more about, feel free to check these out when we send the link. And I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
And we have really good questions. We're going to send this out, the video and the slide presentation with the links, and any extra Q&A that we have will all be included in what you get as a result of this.
Thank you all for coming.